Hello everyone, welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I am teaching and broadcasting live from Budapest, capital city of Hungary, where it's a scorching hot summer day today. All right, so, hi everyone, lots of people joining in. Hi Jeffrey, hi Sakya. Hi Grari. Hi Begzad. All right, as usual, our materials are coming from our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS. And for general IELTS, make sure to visit us at gieltshelp.com. And today, August 5th, we are continuing with our online course. This is our third session. In the first two sessions, we discussed the key strategies, the big strategies that are really important to get a high score on IELTS and to practice at home and then use during the official IELTS exam. Does anybody remember what those three big strategies are? And are you practicing them? I'm really curious. So beyond watching these lessons, which is great, practice does make perfect. So anybody remember what those are? All right, and then, of course, when you join our full course, you can use that on your phone or your tablet, your computer. There's over 100 hours of lesson videos, the interactive course that we've adapted to these live classes. We've made it darker and removed some of the information that is specifically designed for your computer use. If you're looking to do a practice speaking interview through Skype, a mock IELTS interview, send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com. It's my name. And then there's also editing and writing help available. All right, Begzad says, you have to master critical thinking, visualization, and paraphrasing. Pachu seems to agree. Same with Jubilant James. And you're all correct. Absolutely. Those are three big strategies that you need to master. And we will be adapting or using those strategies for the different sections of IELTS. Just as we get going here, please take note of the upcoming schedule for these live IELTS class streams. We are broadcasting Central European Summertime, which is just 2 hours ahead of GMAT time. This schedule is from today all the way until the 19th. I also posted this schedule, members and viewers, in the comments on our channel, so you can check it out there if you forget. So today we're doing the full online course, the third session, and then tomorrow and Tuesday there's no class. Then we're back on Wednesday with part 4 of the online course. For the 9th, I've scheduled a vocabulary learning lesson for IELTS. That's a members chat. And then on the 10th, part 5. And then please take a note of this, that on the 11th, 12th, and 13th, there will be a 3-day break. Okay. Back on the 14th, and then from the 14th all the way to 18th, there's classes scheduled. And again, no classes on the 19th and 20th. Okay. My sincere apologies for those of you who are not able to join as members to our channel. Unfortunately, that's up to YouTube, and they're the ones who choose which countries have this option. They do try to add new countries all the time, but of course there's a lot of bureaucracy and politics and business behind it. So hopefully, as the world becomes more global, it will be available to more and more of you. Definitely do join our courses online and start using those, okay? So today, again, we are going to be looking at a new section here. So we finished the 3 key strategies, and now we are going to be continuing with a listening section overview. So we're going to look at what the IELTS listening section is, how it works, what you have to pay attention to, the correct steps. Hi Shanu, good to see you in class, all right? Now, for our live course, especially for those of you who have already joined, it's a really good idea to print the exam books as you need them. They're quite long, so I know it's a lot of paper and ink. It's 250 pages for our first book, and then 190 pages on the second book. Both of them have 3 full IELTS practice exams. The first book is a little bit unique. So this is the first book here that I'm showing you. And the first book, these are all the people, by the way, so it's not just me in this. There's a lot of people that work together to bring you these materials. And in the first book, you have, of course, a lot of information. And the first test that you'll see is what's called the Academic IELTS Curriculum Test. This is a special kind of IELTS test. It's a little bit different than the official test that you will be doing. Is it a little bit too bright for you, Shakya? Do you want me to maybe make it a little bit darker? There you go. If it's still too bright, girls and guys, just let me know and I'll change it. Okay, so the way that the curriculum test is different, it has a lot of extra questions. Basically, the goal of the curriculum IELTS test in our course is to show you all of the different kinds of questions that you can see in the listening and in the reading, and it's just not possible to do that with only 40 questions for each. So each of these in the curriculum test has about 60, 70 questions, okay? All right. So, having said that, we'll come back to this and we'll listen to some audio a little bit later on as well. Just a quick peek. These are the websites. So this is the general IELTS website with the green background here. So this is the green background. When you've signed up, you can try it for free clicking the green button or the red button if you join the full course. And then you'll have a My Student account. Now, this is the academic one. It's blue. And of course, all of the audio for the listening is available here in your My Student account. So let's pop back to the course and let's talk about the listening section in IELTS. Okay? Ahmed, Ramadan, I definitely do not suggest doing that. It is an extreme criminal offense to purchase IELTS without actually sitting the test and doing it yourself. If anybody discovers that you've done that, that you just bought your scores somewhere, there are unfortunately black market places that do this. And I've never talked about this before, but just because you put that up there, Ahmed, I want to touch a quick point on this. If you cheat on the IELTS or if you buy your scores, there's a chance that it will be discovered. IELTS regularly reviews scores and candidates and follows up on what's happening. And you should know that if they discover that something was done wrong, it is a criminal offense. It's an internationally standardized test. It's very strictly regulated. Forgery on the test is very, very frowned upon. And if it's discovered, no university on the face of the planet will accept you as a student. Okay? They'll literally blacklist you, and these blacklists are available to universities around the world online, of course. Technology allows for that. If you're put on that blacklist, you basically have just destroyed that opportunity in your life to do higher level education. Nobody will accept your applications. And if it's discovered on the general IELTS, then of course you can forget about immigration and going to other countries, and you will have problems crossing borders out of your countries. So be really, really careful, okay, with that. I know for some students, IELTS is a struggle. It can be difficult. And it can be tempting to cheat or to buy the exam, but be very careful because the repercussions are very, very extreme. So careful with that, okay? All right, let's get back to the point here. So for the listening section, you want to listen, you want to see the information, and you want to understand. So you want to apply visualization. The listening section of IELTS has 4 sections. Each one has 10 questions, okay? So the official IELTS, you'll have 40 questions total for listening, 4 sections. Each section has 10 questions. And it roughly takes 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more, to play all of the audio. It is the first part of the test. And then you'll have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now, it's really important to know that format, to practice it at home, and to be familiar with it, okay? IELTS is what's called a progressive test. Okay, progressive means that it's moving forward and forward, and it's scaled. So what it means is that part 1 for listening is going to be the easiest. Part 2 gets to be more difficult. Part 3 and 4 are the most difficult. It's the same in the reading. Generally, passage 1 is easier, and then it gets more and more difficult. And the speaking is the same, where part 1 is kind of the easier part, and then it gets more and more difficult, okay? All right, so what is section 1 usually about? Section 1 is usually about some kind of a general topic, okay? So taking out a book at the library, signing up for a gym membership, returning a product to a store, purchasing something online, making a complaint. So common everyday type situations. Now, for section 1, you really want to get a high score. So you want to get kind of 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, because as I said, each section gets more difficult, so the chance of losing scores is higher later on. You have to know days of the week, months of the year, numbers, listening to dictation of numbers, so writing down if somebody's saying their credit card and so on. Pay attention to spelling. They do spell out names of people, names of streets, so they'll say things like Bartholomew, spelt as B-A-R-T-H-A-L-E-M-U. And so you have to practice listening to these dictations, okay? You don't want to make simple little mistakes here, because these are very valuable, easy marks. And notice this little blue box here at the bottom. It says, learn this in your course in listening to the British accent. So in the actual online course, you'll see some audio that's focusing on days of the week, months of the year, numbers, and so on. So listen to those. Of course, it's in British speakers' accents, because that's mostly what IELTS uses. That's what you want to be familiar with, all right? So when you have the course, make sure to look at that CD that's got all of those. We will look at that today as well in class, okay? So moving on to section 2. Section 2 is a more general topic. By the way, girls and guys, if you have questions while I'm going into these details, do ask. So when we're looking at the overview of the sections, it's a good time to ask anything that you're curious about. Once we get into the specific question types and details, it will be a little bit more distracting. But questions are always welcomed by me, so ask me if you have something, okay? Hi, Arcana. You're not that late. All right, so section 2, so you've done section 1, you're getting into section 2. Section 2 gets a little bit more difficult. The topic will become a little bit more focused. Usually this might be a dialogue, so 2 people speaking, even 3 people speaking. Make sure to review the questions in the time that you have to review the questions. So before they play the audio, you usually have about 20 seconds to look at the questions, read them, and get an idea of what's going to happen. Now, again, when you're doing that, use your critical thinking, your paraphrasing, and your visualization to help you get high scores. If you missed what these are, please look at the last couple of course session lessons and then learn what these mean. That's very important, okay? So, moving along nice and smooth here, section 3 gets even more difficult. For section 3 and section 4, you definitely want to be more prepared even than section 1 and 2. There's more vocabulary, there's more paraphrasing among questions from what you hear in the audio. Pay really close attention to the subjects and the verbs, okay? So focus on the subject of the sentence and the verb of the sentence, all right? Cat Lover, I will be getting into some parts of IELTS specifically in this class. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Naveen, write no more than 2 words and or a number means that you can write 1 word or 2 words, or you can write 1 word and a number, or it can be just a number as well, okay? But no more than 2 items, okay? So maximum 2 items. So you can't have for example, 2 words and a number. Okay, you cannot have 2 words and a number, and you have to be very careful with prepositions or articles like a or the or in, at, on. Those are counted as 1 word. Okay, so if you write in the bank, that's 3 words. Okay, all right. So let's keep going a little bit here. When you get to section 4 of the listening, that's usually the most difficult. It's often some kind of a lecture or a speech or a presentation, often a monologue. It's faster, it uses higher level vocabulary, it's on a more specific topic, like talking about dinosaurs, for example, or a migratory animal, or some specific topic about plastics, some sciences, biology, so on. You really have to be patient. Some answers come very quickly in section 4. Some you have to wait at least 10, 20, 30 seconds to hear the answer. So you need to be patient. You need to practice this part so you're not losing too many marks. Section 4 is unique in that there is no break in the middle of the section. So for section 1, 2, and 3, after the first 5 or 6 questions, they'll give you another 15, 20 seconds to review the second half of the questions. In section 4, they don't do that. They play the whole section 4 all in one go, okay? All right. Judd, to become a VIP student, the best thing as a first step is sign up for our full course on our website, okay? All right, and of course, this last note here is quite important as well. So in section 4, it's very rare that you're actually going to hear the audio use the same words as what you see in the questions. It's 95% paraphrased, so it's almost all paraphrased. And you have to sometimes imply the questions. It means you have to understand what they're saying, interpret what they say, and based on that information, figure out the correct answer, okay? Don't panic. Right? Don't panic. Don't be stressed. Just take it easy. Section 4, don't forget, is also testing expert users of English. So people who are taking IELTS because they are ESL teachers in an English-speaking school, and maybe they're native speakers and they need to get 8.5 to get a job. So it's testing the highest level of listening skills as well. So don't panic if you miss a question or if something's not clear. Okay? Now, this is where it starts to get a bit more detailed. The listening section generally has 9 different kinds of questions that you can see in it. You probably won't see all of them, and Fazia, I'm getting to that. Absolutely, we will get to multiple choice questions once we go deeper into the listening section. Multiple choice will be the first one that we discuss. We might not get to that today, but we'll see. So multiple choice, that's one of the kinds. Of course, that's where you have to choose from A, B, C, sometimes D. There's form or note completion. There's matching type questions. There's sentence completion. There's flowchart completion. There's table completion. There's short answer. There's diagram labeling. And then there's summary completion. Sometimes students are asking me about maps. So they say, oh, I saw a map in the listening section and I have to label it. That's a diagram that belongs to the group of diagram labeling. Each of these different question types requires a little bit of a different strategy to be efficient at giving the right answer, and again, we'll get into those. The online course on those websites, of course, has all that information. I know it might not be too exciting yet, girls and guys, just doing the overview of listening, but believe me, it's worth going through this step by step. So don't jump ahead and just start saying, oh, I only have problems with table completion, so that's the only thing I'm going to focus on. That's not a good idea. If you have enough time, if you have at least a month or 2 before you sit IELTS, go through the course step by step, go through each strategy step by step, okay? Normal, that's pretty good. I hope that's enough for your goal. 6.5 for a bachelor's is usually good enough, okay? All right, so here we go. This is a very useful piece of information here, a very good slide to focus on. When you're learning for the listening, especially in the early stages, it's a really, really good idea to make use of the transcripts, okay? Hopefully everybody knows what transcripts are. Transcripts are basically the script for the listening monologues and dialogues. And in your IELTS books, you should find these at the back of the book. Any good book, whether you're using ours or something from Cambridge or another company, should have the transcripts for the listening sections. That's very valuable for you, for your studies and for your learning. Don't ignore them. Use them, okay? So if you're having difficulty in the listening, then after you listen, what you can do is you can look at the transcripts, read them, see what you misheard, what you didn't understand, and then listen again, okay? So listen first, understand as much as possible, then look at the transcripts and see what you missed, okay? Amjad, how much do you need for your master's in Canada? It really depends on a couple of important points. Number one, what is your master's? If your master's is English literature, you'll probably need 7.5 or 8. If it's mathematics, you probably only need 6.57. Also, it depends where you're going to school. If you're going to a smaller university that's not as famous, they'll take a lower score. If you're going to the University of Toronto, they'll probably need you to get a higher score, okay? So check with the institution where you're going, all right? Now, going back real quick to our book here, let me just show you what the transcripts are for listening. So for the curriculum test, you'll find the transcripts in the back of the book at around page 226, I believe. Yeah, there it is. So here's an example of the transcript. So this is the very back of the book of our first exam book. You'll find these in our second one as well. And then you'll see everything that's said in the audio. So here's the narrator. The narrator starts with these instructions for the listening. The listening section always has about a minute of instructions, maybe even a little bit more, before you actually get to the questions. And then they play an example. And here you can see the speakers. Here's Steve. Steve is talking to Joe. Steve says, "Hello there. I'd like to register for the Autumn Men's Football League." Joe says, "All right. In what town will you be playing?" "I'd like to play in Chester, though I'd be willing to travel to Liverpool if I had to." So the transcripts are very useful for you. Look at them, use them, paraphrase them, think critically about them, okay? It's a great way to start your practice for the IELTS listening section. All right, let's pop back here and keep going with these points. So now we're getting into some section lessons, okay? So we're going to apply some of those key strategies. Again, I can give you all the advice in the world, but you need to practice. It's very important. And then, of course, another step that's really, really important, ladies and gentlemen, is feedback, okay? So these 3 steps are crucial for your IELTS success, all right? So you need to get advice, so you need to get correct strategies. Make sure you're learning right strategies, not such things as skimming and scanning for the reading section. Those are wrong strategies. So be sure that you're learning from a source where expert people are creating these tests and lessons, who are educators, psychologists in education, and so on. And then when you practice, so you write your task 1, task 2s, you do your listening, you check your marks, especially for the writing and the speaking. Get feedback, okay? You might have to spend a little bit of money, maybe even a lot of money, but IELTS costs $300 US, almost $300 US anywhere in the world. So if you have to sit it again and again and you're not improving, it does become really expensive. I know sometimes students do it 3, 4, 5 times, so you're getting into the $1,000, $1,500 US mark. It's probably cheaper to spend $100 on editing for your writing, another $100 for your speaking practice, spend that $200, and then not sit the IELTS again. Don't waste your time, okay? Is it a little bit bright? I can darken it up a little bit more for us here. There you go. Sure, just let me know. Okay? So, how can you improve your skills, press record? That's a good question. Okay? These are the steps that you want to take in the beginning for the IELTS to do that. So there are several components that you have to do to practice before the exam. Try to separate your practice before the exam and what you do during the exam because it's not the same. So what you're doing to build your skills is not sometimes the same as what you need to do during the test. In our course, we separate that for you. So we tell you what you should do practicing for the test and what you need to do during the test, okay? First step is listen to the British English accent. If you're not familiar with the British English accent, you must become familiar with it. I speak a very clear Canadian accent, okay? The British accent is a little bit more enunciated. It's a little bit deeper vowels with the A and the U. So you have to learn these, all right? Then you need to focus on actually understanding what people are saying. Be familiar with the timing of the test, so how quickly the questions come, what you need to do in the time to review your answers and to read the next ones, and then the correct practice and skills for answering these questions, and then what you should do in that 10 minutes when you're taking your answers from the booklet and putting them into your answer, okay? Cat lover, American and Canadian accents are not pretty much the same. I'll make a quick note on that. I know a lot of people are confused about that. There is no such thing really as a Canadian and American accent. That's a little bit of a myth, okay? There are some words that some Canadians pronounce differently than some Americans, but a much better way to think about it is West Coast, so the west side of North America. That's Alaska, Yukon, British Columbia, California, Washington State. They all speak kind of one accent. I'm from Victoria, which is west side, and my friends in Los Angeles speak very similar to the way that I do. East Coast North America has its own kind of accent. Toronto, New York, people tend to speak with similar accents and dialogues. And then Central Canada, the United States in the north, has its own, and then the southern part of the United States has its own very different accent, like the Texan accent or from Kentucky as well, okay? So it's more regional than US or Canada. Think about it that way, all right? Okay, so the listening section, the instructions are full of audios, so you can play these audios. This is kind of what you will hear. I'll play this for you real quick just so you can see this. Make sure you use these in the course when you're going through it for those students that have it, okay?
Days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, so that was just a little sample audio there. That was the days of the week. So again, practicing to listen to those with the British accent, okay? Make sure you go through those. We'll look at some more and I'll get you to listen and repeat here in a little bit, all right? So here the steps are clearly outlined, what you need to do. So make sure you're reading all of the strategies, make sure you're practicing them. Again, print the materials as you need them. Be sure to check your answers so you're getting feedback on what's correct, what's not, and then try again, okay? This point number 5 here is really, really an important one. It's down at the bottom, but it should be at the top in red flashing, okay? The point there is don't just jump from new IELTS material to new IELTS material. Instead, focus in on what you get wrong, listen again, review, repeat, and improve, okay? Don't go from new material to new material. All right, so that's the overview of the listening, and now I will get into a little bit more practice and details here with you. So let me just fire up the next section. These PowerPoints are separated in the same way as the course that you have online. So trying to follow the same type of structure so that when you use the full course, you'll be very comfortable with it. Okay? Thanks, Jeffrey, for that super chat donation. That's awesome. It keeps us going. Thanks a lot, Jeffrey. I appreciate your support. I really do. And I'm very hopeful that you're going to get a really, really nice high IELTS score that's not just going to let you get into university or immigrate, but also be a great job reference. I know you've been practicing hard. Okay, so step number 1, practice listening to British English, okay? There's a lot of ways you can do that. Of course, you can do that through our course. So sometimes you will hear an American accent, an Australian accent, a Canadian accent, so be a little bit familiar with those as well. But mostly on IELTS, you will hear British. That's very different from TOEFL. If anybody's learning TOEFL, TOEFL uses all kinds of accents, even non-native speakers' accents, okay? So be familiar with the pronunciations. And then, of course, for answers, make sure that you have the right spelling, okay? So here, what I want you to do is just listen and repeat. So I'm going to play the audio for you. This is, again, days of the week. We're going to go through all of these common everyday words. Listen and repeat, okay? Again, Jeffrey, thank you so much. All right, so practice these with me. We'll get into it a little bit today. Listen and repeat.
Days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
All right, and beyond hearing these words, of course, it's important to know how to give answers on IELTS. Notice that all of these are capital. So days of the week are considered proper nouns in English. You have to write them with capital letters in your answer sheet. So if you write it like this, okay, that's a wrong answer. If you write a small m, even if you spelt it correctly, you're not going to get a mark for that. So don't lose silly mistakes. You can use all capitals, as I've mentioned in previous classes, and you can use abbreviations. So you can even write it like this, and you will get that correct, okay? Gordial, it's all online, so we don't ship anything. It's all online. You should have an internet connection for most of it, although you can download parts of it, like the exam books. But for a lot of it, you do need a connection, okay? Some words like Wednesday, of course, Saturday, Thursday are probably the most tricky to spell. So again, practice your spelling. Don't lose easy marks. Okay, let's keep going here. So here we have the months of the year. So again, listen to these and repeat them with the speaker, okay? So listen and repeat nice and loud so you can hear yourself, okay? Try to copy the pronunciation. That's good practice for your speaking as well.
Months of the year. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December.
And again, notice that interesting British accent where they say September. In Canada, we would say September in most places. So again, a little bit different pronunciation. Another point to take note of, months of the year are also proper nouns, so it has to be capitalized, capital J, capital F, capital M. Abbreviations are always the first 3 letters. So for example, if you write like that, that's going to be wrong, okay? We don't abbreviate August in that way. So it has to be just the first 3 letters. Again, I recommend using abbreviations to avoid spelling mistakes, especially if you're using all capital letters, okay? We put a lot of effort into it, Gordial, into our courses. We're always improving them, and we're always adding new and new information. In fact, we've just started to produce 4 new videos for the speaking section with interviews with different nationalities, so those will be coming up. But yeah, we're always developing them, and we're always looking at the materials from the perspective of the student and from educational psychology. So we have some points that are maybe a bit more effective than some other courses out there where people aren't really as passionate about what they're doing as we are, okay? So you will find it quite in depth when you're using it. All right, let's keep going here. So, listening to the days of the month. Again, in listening section 1, oftentimes they'll say the birth date of somebody. So they'll say, I was born on the 5th of July. And then you have to figure out, okay, what is the 5th of July? And you have to be, again, careful to listen to these. So again, listen and repeat. We'll go through these nice and smooth. So listen, practice your speaking, your pronunciation while you're doing this. So nice and loud. And listen and repeat. And notice that beside the words themselves, these are, by the way, not proper nouns, so they don't have to be capital. Notice that you have the most easy way to write the answer. In fact, on the IELTS, you don't even have to write the little superscript, which is the TH and the RD. So if somebody says they're born September 9th, you can just write Sep 9 like that, okay? And that will be fine. So you can write September 9th in that way. You do not need the TH on IELTS. So take note of that. Okay, I'll play the audio for you so you can listen and repeat.
Days of the month. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st.
All right, so that is days of the month. Again, there's a very, very good chance that you will hear some of those during section 1 or section 2 of the listening. Now, what else can you hear in the listening? Well, of course, you can hear numbers. Again, be very good at listening to numbers. As silly as that might seem, it is exceptionally important because there's always some kind of telephone dictation, credit card dictation, postal code, where you have to listen to these numbers, you have to know them, and you have to be able to write them down correctly. Students often confuse numbers like 15 versus 50. Okay, so pay attention to those. Again, listen and repeat.
Numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Okay, and note this blue box on the bottom that on the IELTS you should be using numbers and not words in the listening and reading section. In task 2, you need to write numbers from 0 to 10, but above that, use the numbers. And then in the listening and reading, use the numbers only. If you make a spelling mistake, like you write 12 as a TV instead of a W, you will get that wrong. So it's easier to make mistakes with the words, so focus on using numbers. It's much faster as well, so you're saving yourself time. Numbers, for the most part, are not proper nouns, so you do not need to have them as capital. That's just for this slide here, okay? Also, you'll probably see that I'm hitting this red button. This is the audio that you see here, but you see this audio up here as well. When you're doing the full course online with us, there is actual audio that goes along with each slide. You will hear my voice, and you'll hear me give some additional information and description to this, okay? So pay attention to that. All right. Let's keep going here. Hang in there. We're going to get more and more tricky as we get along. So here are the larger numbers. Okay, listen and repeat these as well, nice and loud. By the way, girls and guys, it's not enough to do this once. I know it's not the most exciting part of life to be repeating numbers in another language, but it's very, very useful, especially if you're a businessman or a businesswoman. Then you'd want to be very accurate with numbers, because it's about money. You could lose a lot if you don't know what you're saying or if you're not sure what you're hearing. So here we go.
30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000.
Okay, and once you master these nice round numbers, then you might want to get into practicing even more detailed numbers like 12,748, 1,748,500. You can hear these kinds of numbers at times in the IELTS listening, especially section 3 and 4. When they get into trickier topics, they will use bigger numbers as well. In one case in ours, you hear a person talking about dinosaurs, and they'll say, dinosaurs lived approximately 65 million years ago. Okay, so make sure that you practice these numbers. These should not be difficult by the time you sit the IELTS. These should be easy and quick. Okay, again, use numbers, not words, especially for these big ones when you're listening, reading, writing, okay? So what else do you need to know for IELTS? Well, you need to know the imperial system. IELTS is British-based test, so of course UK uses the imperial system. The United States uses the imperial system with some slight differences, and you can hear information using the imperial system on IELTS, so you need to be familiar with it. And this is tricky for a lot of people because most of the world now uses metric. In Canada, we're confused. We use both. A long time ago, people used the imperial system. We've switched to metric many years ago, but oftentimes people will still be using the imperial system. So if you've ever visited Canada, you'll find that to be true as well. So anyhow, listen to some of these imperial system words so that you can identify them and know what's going on. Here we go. I'll play the audio for you.
Imperial system. Ounce, pound, inch, feet, yard, mile.
Okay, now ounce is generally used to measure weight or liquid. Pound also measuring weight. Inch, feet, and yard and mile are used to measure distances. Notice the abbreviations. Ounce is kind of interesting. It doesn't have the letter Z, but that's how we abbreviate it, OZ. Okay, pounds abbreviated as LB, inches as IN. It's good to know the abbreviations. If you do need to use this in one of your answers, it's much easier to use the abbreviation than to write out the word. So again, practice these and know these, okay? All right. Here we go. The metric system, a little bit closer to home. You're probably a little bit more familiar with this. Again, knowing the abbreviations is very important. And of course, a lot of students who are going to university, and if you're studying physics or math or biology, and you don't know these, you're going to have to learn them sooner than later, okay? Because, of course, in school, we use these words quite a bit. So especially for all you academic students out there, make sure that you pay attention to these. That's right, Dun Nguyen. Ounce is also used for gold, but it's a different measure. 1 ounce is equal to 28 point something grams, usually. When we're talking about gold, Dun Nguyen, it's called a troy ounce, and a troy ounce is 31.1 grams. Now, if you're a businessman dealing with gold, it's very important to know that 3-gram difference because a gram of gold is very valuable. Okay, so here we go. This is the metric system. Again, listen and repeat.
Metric system. Gram, kilogram, ton, millimeter, centimeter, meter, kilometer, liters.
Okay, and again, you can hear any one of these words in the IELTS. This is not the full set of the metric system. The previous was not the full set of the imperial system, but it's just to start you off. All right, so it's just to get you going. Again, make sure to practice these several times and try to copy that pronunciation. Of course, notice that it's way easier to write km than kilometer. It's way easier to write cm than centimeter. And of course, notice that my pronunciation is quite different than the British speakers. All right, and no surprise, money makes the world go round. IELTS is no different in the sense that it requires money, it costs money, and it talks about money. So you will often, if not always, hear at least some audio dealing with money. And of course, knowing how to talk about money is very important in English. It is the language of business. So do know the pronunciations of the words and be familiar with the symbols that are used, okay? If the symbol is given in your answer, then you don't need to write it. In fact, it will be wrong if you double up on it, so careful with that. But if it's not, again, it's easier to use the symbol than the word. These are not proper nouns, okay? The metric system and the imperial system are not proper nouns either, so you do not need to capitalize this. You can write this as small c, E-N-T-S, all right? So here we go. Just a second, I'm going to allow that comment there, Harmeet. So give me 1 sec. Okay, there you go, Harmeet. Now you can connect with Jeffrey. All right, so let's play the audio for this. Again, listen and repeat.
Currency. Cents, dollars, pence, pounds.
Okay, and again, you can hear all of these, and indeed there are IELTS exams where you hear both. So sometimes you'll hear one audio it's talking about dollars and another one that's talking about pounds, okay? From my experience, pounds and pence seem to be more common, but you definitely hear dollars and cents at times as well. So be familiar with these. Okay, here's an interesting piece of information. In the IELTS, you are expected to do active listening. That means that you're not just a robot, you're not just listening to information and dictating or transferring answers as you hear them from audio into words, but sometimes you're required to do simple math. So they'll say something like, the cost of a first-class ticket was $3. The cost of a second-class ticket was $10. And then the question will say, if somebody bought a first and second-class ticket, how much did they pay? And then you'll have to say $13. So here's an example of a question in the IELTS that uses a little bit of math. Some of you might have heard this from our previous classes where we're doing listening exercises. And here we go. So here's the question. What was the overall capacity of the Titanic? The Titanic is a very famous big ship that sunk off the coast of Newfoundland in 1912 after it hit an iceberg. And here is the audio.
It had the capacity to carry over 3,500 passengers, as well as the over 800 people on the crew of the ship.
Okay, so when you hear this audio, of course, taken out like this, it's a little bit more simple, but when you hear it within all of the other audio, you have to realize that when it's asking you what was the overall capacity means the total number of people that could be on this boat, you have to realize that the correct answer, as Zaman Begzad is saying, is C. It has 800 crew, it has 3,500 passengers, so the overall capacity is 4,300. So even though 4,300 wasn't used by the speaker, the correct answer is 4,300. Again, IELTS is not just testing your English, it's testing your thinking, your ability to use critical thinking, to think under pressure, think quickly, and actively. Okay, so there it is again, a little bit more description there for you, the simple math, adding it together, getting the answer C. Okay. Now, here, of course, we discussed days of the month, months, currencies. We discussed the metric system. And if you're doing our full online course, at this point, you will have an interactive quiz. Okay. These interactive quizzes are specially designed in HTML5 for your tablet, your computer, and your phone. So they're not designed for these PowerPoint classes, so we're not going to go through the quiz per se right now, but definitely when you are using it on your phone or tablet, make sure to do these quizzes. They will test your spelling, your ability to listen, understand these, and so forth, okay? So that is the end of the overview for the listening, and now we are going to get into some more specific topics for listening questions. So we'll get into those multiple choice, filling in the tables. I'll teach you strategies on how to do that. We'll practice that. But for today, I'm going to stop there. That's lots of information. It was a good little putting your feet into the water. Next week, when I come back on Wednesday, we'll jump a little bit more into the deep end of the pool, and we'll get into specific question strategies for all of those 9 different kinds of questions that you see in the listening, and then we'll do some practice. Again, girls and guys, everybody who's watching, if you have the chance to join our course and get these books and prepare for these live streams, it's going to be much, much more effective for your learning. So I highly recommend joining us, getting our materials, and interacting with these live classes in a much more effective way. Thank you, Shanu, for that compliment. I appreciate it. Thank you, Eugen. That's very kind of you. To become a member, of the channel, you have to click the join button on our channel page, okay? So again, I will see you on Wednesday. That's it for this week for me. I hope that a lot of you learned some good information. I hope that you're practicing those key strategies of critical thinking, visualizing, and paraphrasing. Very important to quickly push your IELTS band scores nice and high. Thank you, members, for your support. Much love to everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Have a great start to your week, and I'll catch you on Wednesday. Bye for now.